Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. We're just days away from the new year, and we felt it was an opportune time to look back at the many wonderful people and programs that it was our pleasure to feature on Another View this year. Throughout 2017, Another View producer Lisa Godley showcased some of the wonderful things going on in the African American community and introduced us to the amazing people who made those things happen. And when we return, we'll look back at some of those very special moments. So stay tuned.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. On Sunday, we'll begin counting down the clock to a brand new year. But before we say goodbye to 2017, we'd like to take a look back at some of the moments that brought smiles to our faces, programs that inspired us, and people who made us proud to be a part of a community that spends so much of its time giving back. It was our pleasure to acquaint you with a young man who took the pain of bullying and transposed it into a national platform to help others. We also introduced you to artists known for their performances worldwide, singers with recognizable voices like Martha Wash, who is known to pack a dance floor the moment the people hear her belt out the words, "Everybody dance now." And of course, those pieces that reflect on those important moments in history, both past and present, that helped shape our world. So turn up the radio, sit back and enjoy as we bring you the best of Another View Feature Stories 2017 edition. The movie Hidden Figures looks at how 3 African American women impacted NASA and the space program. These women pushed past racial discrimination and sexism in the workplace to take their place in American history. But while the movie focuses on just 3 women, there were dozens of Black women using their math skills to ensure NASA continued to soar. Like aerospace engineer and mathematician Christine Darden, who shares her journey as one of NASA's human computers.
I did not like being called computers.
But like all of the women who worked in the computer pool at NASA Langley, Christine Darden carried the title of human computer, reading, calculating, and plotting data. Her story is one of several untold stories captured in the Margot Shetterly book, Hidden Figures, now being played out on the big screen.
You're a computer at NASA. They let women handle that sort of...
Yes, it's an uphill battle.
Yes, they let women do some things at NASA, Mr. Johnson. And it's not because we wear skirts. It's because we wear glasses.
Christine came to NASA some 15 years after Katherine Johnson, who was played by Taraji P. Henson in the movie. But Christine is quick to point out that things really hadn't changed that much when she arrived in the late 1960s.
They assigned me to this computer office, and it was in re-entry physics. And the engineers would just come in with their equations, and they would say, I would like a computer program to solve this equation, and so I can get a plot or a diagram or something from it. And we always had to work hand cases to know if the numbers we were getting were right.
She shares one of her most memorable assignments.
One of the more interesting problems I had was a set of partial differential equations, which was to describe the airflow between a vacuum and a high pressure area when you remove the diaphragm from between the two of them. So I wrote a program that worked on that, and I finally got the program to run, and the answers were wrong. And I went back and I checked everything, and I checked. And the engineer came in, and I said, well, I have checked everything. I've got everything right here. I said, let me check where you derived the equation. So he brought his papers in, and I found a sign error in what he had done. And once we changed that sign in the code, the answers were right.
For Christine, who came to NASA with a master's degree in applied mathematics, solving equations without knowing how they were being applied was unsettling.
I really enjoyed knowing the full problem, and I really wanted to do my own projects. And so I started to ask about going back to school or being assigned to an engineering section, especially after I found out that white guys coming in with the same background that I had were put in engineering sections and they worked on their own projects. While in the computer pool, for the most part, it was pretty dead end. You might get put down as second or third author on a report for doing the code itself, but you didn't get promoted.
So Christine Darden spoke up.
I went to a director who was like 2 or 3 levels up and said, I'd like to know why men with the same background I've had were put in engineering sections and the women are put in dead-end jobs. And he said nobody had ever complained about it before. I was put into an engineering section. I got a promotion based on that meeting, I think. And my first assignment was to develop this sonic boom minimization code from a technical report from a couple of professors at Cornell University.
But even going from data analyst to aerospace engineer, she found that some things remained the same.
If you answered the phone for the secretary, of course you were the secretary. Or if you were in a meeting, you were there to get them coffee. So there were mistakes made like that.
Now, decades later, after receiving more than a dozen awards for her work, Christine Darden reflects on her time at NASA and smiles as she watches the world learn the story of the human computers who helped NASA soar to new heights.
It's exciting because nobody really knew what we were doing at NASA, and that seems to have grabbed everybody's attention.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
Hidden Figures was nominated for Best Picture at the 2017 Academy Awards. Can music bring communities together? A former member of the Grammy Award-winning a cappella group Sweet Honey in the Rock is convinced that music has the power to generate significant change. Back in January, Dr. Lisa Barnwell came to Hampton Roads to explore music's impact and teach others how to use it to make a difference. She shared her knowledge, talents, and a few vocal teaching techniques with our Lisa Godley.
This may be the last time.
In the past, when the country was divided, people came together and sang songs. One such example was during the Civil Rights Movement, where spirituals, folk music, and gospel songs set the stage for rallies, marches, and speeches that generated change. Dr. Lisa Barnwell has been bringing people together through her music for 40 years.
Officially for me, it started in 1977. I joined a Unitarian church in Washington, D.C. and had a fabulous choir, and only 3 black people were in it. As I got to know people in the church, I started asking how come more black folk weren't singing in the choir, and it was probably because most didn't read music. So I thought, well, we can have a choir where people don't read music. And even though I had never done it before, I started arranging music that I knew and teaching it to the choir. And that group became the All Souls Jubilee Singers. And all these years later, it still exists.
Her musical journey took her from bringing people to the choir to joining the Grammy Award-winning a cappella group Sweet Honey in the Rock.
I say it looks like my people, they're coming on through.
The talented ensemble incorporated the music of the black church along with blues and jazz and used it to shed light on injustice. For Dr. Barnwell, it led to a better understanding of the important role music plays in bringing a community together.
And when I look at African American music, I realize that all of our history is in the music we have created ever since we came here, right on up to hip-hop. Songs are not frivolous in our community. They have intention, they have meaning, they have a purpose.
Keep that up. Here we go. And glory, glory.
Dr. Barnwell uses her Building a Vocal Community workshops to instantly create community through song. These harmonious forums have been a featured TED Talk.
Hallelujah. How many of you are sitting next to somebody you don't know? Fabulous. Fabulous. And I ask that because Songs have a way of pulling us together instantly.
She says the newer movements don't feature singing as much as the older ones did, and explains ways older people can encourage younger people to sing together in tough times.
Getting together and singing has to become an intentional activity. We have to use songs as a way of pulling ourselves together and encouraging ourselves not to become so depressed and so down that we lose our focus, lose our energy, and give ourselves over to energies and forces that we don't necessarily want in our lives.
She says one of the best techniques for getting people shy or apprehensive about singing with a crowd to do so is by using a technique she calls call and response.
If I say, we're marching on, you say, we're marching on. And so that's a technique. It's a technique. And that technique can be used to help people sing who've never sung the song before, because I'm telling you what to sing. You sing it back to me, and before you know it, everybody is singing.
It's a technique she continues to utilize as she teaches participants about the evolution of African American music, giving those in attendance an enjoyable way to not only learn a little history, but to spark important and much needed conversations. For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
Dr. Barnwell continues her Building a Vocal Community workshops and Community Sings workshops in the new year with her first stop in Florida in January. When Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald came together in song, it was nothing short of magical. That electrifying chemistry was reborn in the spring of this year through the musical talent of singer Marva Hicks and trumpet player Byron Stripling and their amazing tribute performance with the Virginia Symphony Orchestra.
Jazz great Louis Armstrong could light up a stage, whether it was with his magnificent trumpet playing or his distinctive singing voice.
I see trees of green, red roses too.
Another legend who consistently packed concert halls was the First Lady of Song, Ella Fitzgerald.
Heaven, I'm in heaven.
And when those two performers came together, it was nothing short of explosive.
The way you wear your hat, the way you sip your tea, the memory of...
Now, some 60 years later, two talented artists are introducing the music of Louis and Ella to new audiences. This tribute to the legends is the brainchild of trumpet player Byron Stripling.
Always loved Louis Armstrong. Something about the sound of his trumpet, which to me is the sound of New Orleans, which is the sound of America. And there's something about that grabs people's ears and does something to them emotionally that's almost something you can't describe.
Joining Stripling on stage is singer Marva Hicks, whose credentials include duets with Stevie Wonder and Michael Jackson.
This love is forever, that's the answer. I hear your voice now, you are my...
Hicks says she's been an Ella fan ever since she first heard her sing A Tisket a Tasket, a song Hicks performs in the tribute show.
A tisket, a tasket, a brown and yellow basket.
Who can be Louis? Who can be Ella? We are bringing our spirit, infusing our spirits with theirs, I should say, because I like to wrap myself in Ella. I think I'd like to wrap myself in her joy.
And put it in her pocket.
For the past few years, Stripling and Hicks have collaborated, wowing audiences with their tribute to Satchmo and the First Lady of Song.
I think Ella's impact was individuality. I think she gave female singers a new sense of freedom, especially when she became the incredible scatter that she was. She set the standard. She set it so high. I think she gave women permission to, do your thing. Seriously believe that. I literally believe she opened the door for the female jazz singer of our time to just walk on into what you do and to do it well.
Before Louis Armstrong, the way people conceptualized how one should sing was always with a European concept of tone or sound. So everybody was like, Don Giovanni. And Louis Armstrong said, "Ba-do-say-do-bo-do-za." So a whole different concept of sound and phrasing. And we just imbue our spirits with their spirits.
Exactly.
Do it our way, because by the way, that's the only way a jazz musician can do it. We do imitation, and we do imitation for learning, and then when we walk on our stage, we are ourselves. That's the highest honor that we can give Louis and Ella, is to do it our way. They would expect that of us, because that's what jazz is.
Their tribute introduces to some and reminds others of the incredible contributions Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald made to music, each bringing to the table unique styles that influenced musicians and singers worldwide and helped shape generations. For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
Between 1956 and 1959, Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong recorded 3 albums together: Ella and Louis Again, and Porgy and Bess. So what if you could look fashionable while carrying everything you needed and help the environment all in one fell swoop? Well, a young designer right here in Hampton Roads has created a product that he says can do just that. Back in February, we introduced you to Hamilton Perkins, whose earth bags are popular examples of how one man's trash is another man's treasure.
So the idea in the beginning, Lisa, was to make a bag that I could be proud to carry. I was interested in making it out of something that was sustainable.
But Hamilton Perkins couldn't find an example of what he was looking for in a department store or online, so he decided to design it himself.
I ran a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter. We had a $10,000 goal. We hit that in under a week, fortunately, and from there we basically got things going. I won the Virginia Velocity Tour after that. Following that, I was elected to basically work with Bloomingdale's to do a trunk show in New York.
What makes the Hamilton Perkins collection so unique is the materials that are used to create the bags.
So each bag takes about 16 bottles out of the environment, and we source the bottles from the developing world, and we get the billboards from mainly the United States right now. And it takes about 1 yard of recycled billboard vinyl out of a landfill. So each bag is different. Each bag is unique. The plastic bottles is basically what you see on the outside of the bag. The inside is made from recycled billboards, like a billboard you'd see on the interstate, Times Square, downtown. We take that, and before it goes into a landfill, we cut the pattern, we cut it, and then we sew it into this bag.
Perkins, who received his undergraduate degree from ODU and his MBA from the College of William and Mary, says the show at Bloomingdale's was definitely one of the highs of going into business for himself.
Over the holidays, the height of the holiday season, being able to introduce our product, which really started from trash, honestly, and that being able to connect with a prestigious clientele like Bloomingdale's was just a dream come true.
Hamilton's line of bags consists of 2 styles, a duffel bag with 2 handles and a backpack. But there are several variations, bringing the total line to 24.
So the backpack is 2 bags in one. It's a duffel bag, and you can zip away the backpack straps. So it's easy to carry on a plane, fits under a seat on a plane.
The earth bags are adorned in practical but fashionable colors to fit just about every taste, from natural to navy, cognac to Carolina blue, just to name a few. While most of Hamilton's customers shop his earth bags online, the Hampton Roads native has set up shop right here at home.
I moved into the Old Dominion University Innovation Center, opening up a really small showroom there where customers can basically come and take a look at our bags, shop our bags, and that brings us up to the present moment. And now we're building out our website and getting all of our ducks in a row for 2017.
Perkins also has a second location on Bush Street in Norfolk. His advice to any young entrepreneur eager to venture out into the business world is to find a product that solves a personal problem.
You can pretty much find something in your daily routine that's a pain point for you, and there's a good chance that it's a pain point for other people as well. So if you can come up with a practical solution to that, then you could have a business on your hands, and then beyond that, work hard and don't give up.
He's quick to point out that there will be highs and lows, but sums up his 6-month journey with his Earthbag collection this way.
I'm just excited for the opportunity to continue to work on something that I'm really passionate about.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
You can check out the Hamilton Perkins collection by visiting hamiltonperkins.com. She was admired and idolized by some, hated and villainized by others. Her name, Queen Jenga. National historian Dr. Linda Haywood has written a book about this legendary African queen. In it, Dr. Haywood, who also served as consultant to the exhibit on Africa at the Jamestown and Yorktown Settlement Victory Center, explains how Queen Jenga governed the kingdom that was once home to those first Africans who arrived at Old Point Comfort in 1619.
When those first Africans arrived at Old Point Comfort, they left behind a life that few people know much about, life in the kingdom of Angola.
These Africans did not come from the jungle. That's what people have to understand. These Africans were accustomed to Europeans. They were not intimidated by Europeans. They were from an organized kingdom, 20 to 30,000 residents in the capital, the urban centers.
Dr. Linda Haywood has studied the people of Angola for years. As a professor of African history and African American studies, she shared her knowledge consulting on numerous PBS television specials and museum exhibits, including African Voices at the Smithsonian.
The British at the time, in 1619, did not have a formal system of slavery. So the documentation that we've seen in Virginia, we collected every named African. And we know that these people had names, Maria, Pedro. When you see these names, these are Angolas.
This can be attributed to the Portuguese takeover of Angola in the 15th century. They had hoped to seize the land for gold, but found the selling of Africans as slaves to be much more valuable a commodity. It was during that time that the African warrior, who would one day be queen, named Jenga, came on the scene.
We know that Jenga was very much not satisfied with the way in which her brother was dealing with the Portuguese. She wanted him to be much more aggressive.
She served as his chief negotiator on several occasions. On her first meeting with Governor Correa of Portugal, only he was allowed to sit. So to establish her equality, she created her own seat.
When the Portuguese governor refused to give her a seat, Jenga called her servants. She had several servants accompanying her to show her status as an ambassador of an independent country. And she had the servant go on all fours, and Jenga negotiated. From there, she would sit up and then sit down. And she was successful at negotiation. And when she took over in 1624, she in fact had a policy of in fact standing up more vigorously to the Portuguese.
This was something the Portuguese did not like, and she was forced into exile, but not into silence.
She was actively engaged in resistance, organizing warriors, being the head of a camp.
She formed alliances with other states, which evolved into a 30-year war against the Portuguese. Not only did she strategize, she led the troops into battle.
She was at the front of her army. The Portuguese were astounded. So this is not an ordinary person. This is a person whose role as the resistor of the Portuguese, as one who did not submit, and one who had global influence.
She is credited with inspiring the 20th century armed resistance against the Portuguese that resulted in Angola's independence in 1975. Despite numerous attempts, Queen Jenga was never captured by her enemies and lived to be 80 years old. Dr. Haywood says Queen Jenga's heroism is legendary, not only in Africa, but all over the world.
In Cuba, I collected a poem written by an Afro-Cuban, and here this poem, and it's all in the book. It honors Jenga, Queen Mother. You've come to me. It's amazing the type of impact Jenga has had in Europe, vilified, but still marveled at.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
You can learn more about Queen Jenga in Dr. Linda Haywood's book, Queen Jenga of Angola, Africa's Warrior Queen, which is available in the Jamestown Bookstore and on Amazon. Back in April, the Grammy-nominated singing sensation King performed in Hampton Roads as part of the Virginia Arts Festival lineup. The talented trio was discovered by Prince and soon catapulted into the spotlight when asked to open for him and some 17,000 fans. Our Lisa Godley talked to the ladies about their unique style, love of music, and whirlwind rise to the top of the charts.
As soon as Amber and Anita sang together for the very first time, it was really something special and very different and unique. So it's a blend, it's a synergy, and I think it's really just based off the fact that the three of us are best friends.
Anita Bias and Amber Struther had met years earlier in college, but it wasn't until Amber's twin sister Paris, a songwriter and musician, joined in that they knew they had something special. They continued to write music and sing together, and in 2011, independently released online their 3-song EP titled The Story. The trio says they simply wanted to share the work they'd done with family and friends, but within a day, they'd heard from Questlove and Erykah Badu, and then the email that changed their lives.
Maybe a week or two later, we got an email from Prince asking if we might be interested in opening up for him. So, of course, it was an incredible experience for us. He flew us out to the tour he was on at the time, which was actually in North Carolina. We got to hang out with him and chat, and that's when he found out that we were also from Minneapolis, well, at least Amber and I. So it was a really beautiful connection, but it started authentically with him hearing the music on the internet. It was actually our first show ever as King, and Prince was confident that we were ready to play in front of 17,000 people. Coming from that was Prince sees it so strongly in us, and even if we hadn't yet seen it ourselves, the fact that he was so confident that we were ready really did make us ready.
Since then, Paris, Amber, and Anita have been extremely busy. Their debut album, appropriately titled We Are King, netted a 2017 Grammy nomination for Best Urban Contemporary Album. And while the talented trio lost to Beyoncé's Lemonade, they're still thrilled to have been recognized.
It was such a surprise that we were included in this year's Grammy Awards with Beyonce and Rihanna. It's still shocking even when I say that out loud. It just feels like a blessing that people as high as the Academy recognize us.
Paris says their unique soulful sound has been described many ways.
We're influenced by so many different genres and styles, but we've heard some people say dream pop, we've heard some people say future soul, we've heard retro soul. You know, there's all kinds of different titles that people give us, but all we were trying to do is create our own musical landscape.
It's a landscape formed from a love of music that started when they were all very young and has been shaped by a variety of influences.
Of course, Prince, Stevie Wonder, all big fans of Quincy Jones, Patrice Rushen. Otherwise, all influenced by jazz, sometimes classical, a lot of soundtrack, pop music, of course.
They often write songs they feel are relatable. Amber says her favorite song on We Are King is Mr. Chameleon.
It's a really colorful, playful song, and it's kind of talking about everyday occurrence of people maybe not being totally straight up, but just kind of taking it lightheartedly.
Anita's favorite? The Greatest. The trio is excited to share their incredible gift with audiences across the country, and their tour includes a stop in Hampton Roads in April, when you can see for yourself why these three young ladies are king. For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
King's nomination for Best Urban Contemporary Album at the 59th Grammy Awards made them the first independent artists to be nominated in that category. Back in the spring of 2017, WHRV introduced a new initiative called Educationally Speaking. This allowed us to explore current issues surrounding modern day education. Here at Another View, we use the opportunity to examine the challenges our African American boys face when it comes to their studies. We also looked at some possible solutions, specifically 2 programs in Portsmouth designed to give Black boys a leg up when it comes to both their education and life in general.
For the Male Leadership Mentoring Academy, please meet in the library immediately following morning announcement.
Within minutes, about 8 fourth graders at Parkview Elementary eagerly took their seats ready for their next session. Today's task, write something kind about each other.
One of the hardest things for young men to do
is find something nice about someone else.
About another young man.
Portsmouth School Board member Cardell Patillo started his mentoring and tutoring program focusing on African American males in the 4th and 6th grade at 2 Portsmouth elementary schools.
I think it needs to be more community involvement. We put too much pressure on teachers and educators, and really we still need the parents to do their part and also for the community to do their part to help raise our children. It takes a village.
But Patillo's Male Leadership Academy does more than provide these students with a role model. He also makes sure they're exposed to things they'd otherwise only hear about in class or read in a textbook, like the group's field trip to City Hall and the state capitol.
So who is the top executive for the state of Virginia?
Governor.
The governor. All right.
Governor McCullough.
Governor Chairman McCullough, great. We cover their academics, make sure they're doing well in class as far as their work is concerned. We track their behavior while they're in school, and we also do different activities from peer mentoring to character trait development, also how to handle conflicts within school divisions amongst peers and even with family.
While he's only been at Parkview and John Tyler a year, Patillo has been mentoring students in Portsmouth for the past decade because he knows it changes lives.
Something that he's taught me is that we will be leaders when we grow up, and we will lead all the other kids in the right direction instead of the bad direction to getting suspended.
I had some of my students, they would average 3, 4, 5 suspensions a year, and some of them haven't been suspended at all this year. And I think it's largely in part of the involvement with the mentoring program and partnership with the school division.
Across town at Wilson High School, another program impacts the lives of teenagers.
To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late. To be late is to be unacceptable.
For the nearly 36 young men who make up Wilson High School's Presidential Men's Academy, being a part of this group has been life-changing. Nathaniel Purdy calls PMA a driving force that keeps you focused.
It exposed me to a lot, like friendship and being able to trust people, and it showed us that it's other stuff outside of Portsmouth. There are things that you can do that other people say you can't do, but it's people behind you that actually believe that you can do it.
Johnny Young describes his experience this way.
It brought me out of my shell. I was really quiet when I started off in this group. And it inspired me to be a better man, a better citizen. Now my role is to mentor other men out there to be prepared for the life that's out of high school.
One of the group's founders, Curtis Williams, says PMA started with a conversation between himself and another teacher, Paul Wilson, who wanted to do something to help the young men at Wilson.
We got kids that needed mentoring, shy, grades, and we had some kids that are really, really smart. So we had a mixture of a whole bunch of boys. And we based it on the number of presidents that are in the United States.
Geometry teacher Stephen Small is also a PMA mentor.
Having a male figure is very, very important. I think it definitely helps for those who have someone to look up to, someone to say, hey, this is not the way, you could do better. Someone to say, okay, you're struggling, it's okay. Here's how you pick yourself up.
To participate, you have to maintain your grades. But Joshua Brown says if you need help, there's plenty of it.
Last year I was struggling a little bit, but this year I take advanced placement classes, and they've helped me out a lot in being successful with those. Last year, over spring break, we went up and visited Georgetown University, George Mason University, Howard University, and it just really got me into really wanting to go to college.
Where do you want to go?
I'm thinking about either JMU or Virginia Military Institute.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
According to the American Institutes for Research, young people who are involved in mentoring programs are more likely to stay in school, attain higher levels of educational success, and are less likely to participate in gangs, be involved in substance abuse, or end up a product of the juvenile justice system. And that's a good thing. In a matter of weeks, he went from trying not to be noticed to taking center stage on a nationally syndicated television show. His name is William Williams, and he's now a junior at Granby High School. But he took time out last April to share with our Lisa Godley how he used life's hard knocks to bang out a bright future.
My dream is I want to become president in 2036, which is when I turn 35.
What made you decide I want to be president of the United States?
Well, I've always had an interest into politics, and I find that one of the greatest ways to change someone's life is in a seat of the presidency. And I think that being in that position, I'm able to help people a lot more than I would in other positions.
There's no doubt that William Williams dreams big. If you don't believe me, ask comedian, author, and show host Steve Harvey.
William clearly has the drive and determination to fulfill all his dreams. And in honor of it being the 10th Annual Dreamers Academy, I wanted to be sure that it gets even closer to making those dreams a reality. That's why we're giving you today a check for $10,000. Are you for real? Yeah, man.
Williams' connection to Harvey started a little over a month ago when he was selected to participate in the 4-day Disney Dreamers Academy, a program designed to unlock the potential in young people by connecting them with inspirational leaders who teach them how to set goals, make plans, and dream big. Event coordinators had seen a video of William doing spoken word and asked him if he would do it there. So the Granby High School honors student looked deep into himself and within a couple of hours captivated the other 99 dreamers with a performance that started like this.
I am an African American, albino. To this truth I must confess. Ever since the day of my birth, the term moonshine has been branded on my chest, and you just can't know the pain of being a little black kid with skin like snow, like every day. The kids in school would alienate me, make me look like I was nothing more than a worthless human being until they had convinced me that my albinism was a blight, that because of this complexion, I couldn't be black, I was just an off-white. Tearing through my self-esteem, like it was air, like it was nothing. White boy. They would call out in the hallways as they walked past me. Snowflake is how they called out to me when they caught me outside, and white chocolate is how they defined me every time when I stepped within their vicinity.
I asked William why he decided to share his story.
I think the best way of showing everybody how to accept themselves is to tell my story of me not accepting myself, being bullied as a kid because of my albinism and being looked at as different, letting myself get into a state of depression and finding ways coming out of that.
When I was 9, I had already tried to myself 5 times. And all I have to say to all those kids that dragged me through the dirt, made me feel like mud, is thank you.
By the end of his 5-minute performance, the Granby High School sophomore had the room on its feet as he thanked his bullies.
So thank you for telling me that I was a snowflake so that I can show you how unique I truly am. So thank you.
As I mentioned earlier, Steve Harvey was so impressed that he invited William to be a guest on his television show. And from that point on, things just kept getting better.
We're going to take this $10,000. We're going to give it to your mom so y'all can get a place to stay. And we take $10,000, do that, and then I'm going to take my foundation. I'm going to send you to college.
William says he's thinking Brown or Georgetown. But for now, William is prepping for the International Poetry Slam in San Francisco. What an amazing last few weeks for William Williams. For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
In addition to spoken word, Williams has created a public speaking club in hopes of building strong oratorical skills and confidence in those who need it the most. They left the safety of their homes and families and journeyed into harm's way in an effort to help desegregate the Deep South. I'm talking about the Freedom Riders, and their story was played out at Norfolk's Wells Theater. And it was not only impactful, but brought their story to life with a fascinating twist.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around.
I learned a lot when I went to the South, but in all honesty, I probably unlearned twice as much. Because by the time I would leave Mississippi, I knew what my calling was to be. I was an activist. I was a leader.
The words of Stokely Carmichael are brought to life in the Parchman Hour by NSU's Christopher Lindsay. Lindsay, who is about the age that Carmichael was when he was a freedom rider, speaks passionately about the importance of a movement, both in the 1960s and today.
Since the beginning of time, people have been fighting for freedom and equality amongst each other. But a big thing is to not get comfortable or complacent when small battles are won. After we accomplish one thing, what's the next thing? And what's the next thing? And keep it moving.
The play's creator, Mike Wiley, uncovered the story of the Parchman Hour while researching the Freedom Riders. Wiley found that many of those brave young men and women who boarded buses heading into the Deep South to battle discrimination spent weeks or even months in Mississippi's notorious Parchman Farm Penitentiary.
Originally, the idea was, okay, we're going to take this freedom ride down to New Orleans. But then when they started being arrested in Jackson, Mississippi, the idea became, okay, jail, no bail. We're going to fill up these jails. We're going to put such a burden on the Mississippi penal system that they will have to let us go. They will have to listen to us.
And while there, some found a unique way to pass the time.
A woman named Mimi Reel, who was a freedom rider, when I started to read her account of life in Parchman Farm Penitentiary, she started to talk about how they had kind of a variety show, and that was the linchpin. I realized that, okay, here's a way that I can tell the story of the Freedom Riders and their journey from Washington, D.C. to Jackson, Mississippi, without telling it in the way that it had been told over and over and over again. This way I can tell about Parchman and their time in Parchman while also telling about the journey using the idea of the variety show. These freedom riders acting out parts of their journey while they're in jail.
In reality, the men and women housed at Parchman were housed separately. But the Parchman Hour takes a different approach.
In this play, we do that for theatrical purposes. We put them all together, but the men were separated from the women in Parchman. And it was the women that came up with the idea of a variety show. That is, they would make up commercials or sing songs or read Bible verses, and that's how the women passed their time, which is, of course, brilliant because women are brilliant like that, whereas the men just sort of sat around and preached to one another and so on and so forth. So the women found a more active and exciting way to spend their time.
The Virginia Stage Company's producing artistic director, Tom Quaintance, is the son of a civil rights attorney who was very involved in the events that transpired in the 1960s.
This is a time where you had men and women who were literally putting their lives on the line to fight this injustice. The thing that's exciting me about this play is that this is a joyous and inspiring piece. This isn't medicine, right? This isn't something that's going to come and people are going to walk out going, "Oh man, that's just so depressing." It's a
comic drama. I mean,
and I walked out of opening night of the world premiere of this play more thrilled than I have at any play I've ever walked out of.
Quentin says in an effort to continue the dialogue, some of the performances will be followed by community conversations that are free and open to the public.
We've got a talk on the Sunday after the opening focused on a historical perspective with experts talking about the history and how that history then intersects with what's going on today. And then the second Sunday is talking to people who lived through protest periods, both contemporary and past. It's not to say that we haven't progressed at all since 1961. We haven't progressed nearly as far as we pretend we have. And until we acknowledge that past and the ugliness of that past, the violence of that past, and embrace the fact that the way to change that is we all have to come together to fight these problems. I mean, look, these were college kids mostly, but there were a lot of folks who were just regular folks who made a difference. And I want people to come out realizing that they have more power than they think.
If you want to know how to get forward, you can always look back to the past. But you can't forget about what happened in the past and expect to move forward.
Local comedian Allison Moore keeps us laughing, whether she's opening for comic legend Sinbad or doing her own thing. But Moore's passion stretches far beyond tickling our funny bones. Last summer, she hosted a women's conference in Hampton, focusing on empowerment. She named it Fearless because, as Moore shared, being afraid is no laughing matter.
I've been a comedian all my life. I've just been getting paid last couple of
Recently.
years, right? So a couple people owe me money. That's what I say.
But Allison Moore is quick to point out that growing up, she was no class clown, just someone quick with a comeback.
What I have always been is fearless, which is another element that you need to be bold enough by yourself to stand on stage and commit to entertaining someone.
So when Allison decided to host her second Women's Empowerment Conference, that's what she named it, Fearless. The goal, to empower women to overcome the fear that might be holding them back and keeping them from becoming successful in the many roles they juggle each and every day. Last April, Allison promoted and produced a show at NSU's Wilder Center featuring Sinbad, and guess who opened for him?
Sinbad was like really big and known for his clean comedy.
Right.
And I want the people who like clean comedy to know that I'm here. And so you do that by bringing one of the giants of clean comedy. I'm like, ladies, if your man wants you to, stay in shape, you do that. Work out, stay in shape. So your shape can be a brick house, a double wide trailer.
Oh, my.
It could be a Coca-Cola bottle, a gallon of milk. It doesn't matter the shape. You just stay in the one that you already in.
Allison's road to the stage isn't exactly what you'd call predictable. She earned a BA from Norfolk State University, a master's from George Washington University, and worked in the field of human resources before taking on the title comedian.
People are very surprised when they talk to me because I guess comedians are not necessarily walking around, Hampton Roads every day. And then my story looks a little bit different because even though I like to think I look 21, right? Please say I look 21.
You do.
It's my self-esteem. Thanks,
You do.
Lisa.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I'm not. I'm 33. I'll be 34 this year. Married 13 years. I got 3 kids. I can't go chasing comedy like a 22-year-old can. People are like, oh, so you gonna move, girl? You gonna move to L.A.? Like, yeah, when you help me sell my house. And I already have me another one in L.A. with a job that my husband can transfer to.
Allison is what you'd call a clean comic, which means no sex talk or profanity.
This is no lie, Lisa. I have not had a show where at least one person did not come up to me and say, I didn't think you was going to be funny, girl, because I don't do clean comedy. Or men still say, you funny, to be a woman. Something like your mama never made you laugh. Like, never. I enjoy when I'm up there and I see the audience's reaction. Like, I take them in different places. Like, one of my first opening lines, especially if I'm doing a white club, is, I bet you when they said my name, you didn't think it was going to be me.
The name Martha Wash may leave you asking who, but the second you hear her bellow out the words, everybody dance now, or it's raining men, you become instantly familiar with her rich and soulful sound. She spoke to our Lisa Godley about the path that took her from gospel singer to pop legend.
You only thought you'd never heard of Martha Wash, but the twice Grammy-nominated songstress has led vocals for some of the most recognizable hits of the 80s and 90s, like CNC Music Factory's Sweat.
I always knew that I wanted to sing. I just wasn't sure what genre it would be in. Naturally, my mother wanted me to sing gospel. And when I started singing with Sylvester professionally, and I told my parents, naturally they weren't happy, but I said, look, I've been singing gospel since I was a kid. I want to try this. I want to sing other types of music.
And sing she did. But you didn't see Martha Wash in the Black Box video singing the smash hit Everybody, Everybody. Instead, you saw a model lip-syncing to Wash's rich, powerful sound. A sound that catapulted the song to the top of the charts.
You won't belong to me, I let you down. I walk around and see your night skyline.
Wash says gospel will always be her foundation, but she followed her dream of singing all kinds of music and found herself auditioning as a backup singer for Sylvester, a life-changing moment she remembers well.
I went on and did the audition, and the girls that were still there, he dismissed them and told them that they could leave, and he hired me on the spot and asked me if I knew of anybody else that was as large as I was and that could sing, and I said yes, because I had been singing with Izora for years in the gospel group. So I brought her in, and, the rest is history.
The two women would later get their own record deal, marketing themselves as 2 Tons of Fun. Then came the offer they almost refused when they were asked to record It's Raining Men.
Paul Jabara and Paul Schaefer wrote It's Raining Men. And he invited Izor and myself and our managers over for lunch. He said, I want you to record this song. And we listened to the demo for it, and we kind of laughed. He said, no, I really want you to record this song. And he went on to list the women who had turned down the song. And he told us that Donna Summer had turned it down, Barbara Streisand turned it down, Diana Ross turned it down. And we said, Paul, we can't record this song. Nobody's going to really buy this. And he said, no. He actually begged us to record this song. He said, I know this song is going to be a hit. And about 2 days later, we went in the studio and recorded the song in about 90 minutes and walked out of the studio and said, okay, Paul, see you later. And we went on about our business, still working as 2 Tons of Fun and all that. And he was the one who really shot the song to the club DJs.
The song became a hit in clubs long before it was heard on the radio. It would rise to #1 on the U.S. disco chart and become an international hit, selling over 6 million copies worldwide. And Martha and Izora would perform it as the Weather Girls. Today, it's still a club favorite. The duo split in the late 80s, and Izora Armstead passed away in 2004. As a solo artist, Wash has recorded both ballads and pop music, not to forget numerous jingles as well as movie soundtracks. But she loves a live audience and can't wait to perform in Hampton Roads.
Just come out and have a real good time. Celebrate life, love, and who you are. Just celebrate yourself and the people around you, the people that love you. I really try to help people through music embrace themselves and love others, really as we all should.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
We hope you've enjoyed revisiting some of our favorite stories from 2017. We can't wait to share some of the wonderful things happening in the African American community in 2018. To listen to any of our past shows, you can log on to our website at anotherviewradio.org. While there, be sure to sign up for our eView newsletter. Our theme music was written and performed by Jay Sennett. And for producer Lisa Godley and audio engineer Victor Bowen, I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Happy New Year, everyone. We'll return next week to kick off another exciting year of live, thought-provoking discussions. So make an appointment to join us for Another View.